Good evening, team. So I hope that we are well, and I see the number is still low. I hope guys will be joining. So apologies. Yesterday we could not make it, but we are on course. Sorry, with regards to this class, maybe quickly what we learned last time before we start what you are supposed to cover today. We did an introduction of machine learning, and we said that it is a state of the art approach to data science, like it is a modern approach to data science. We went and looked at what a machine learning algorithm is, and we said that it is like a trial and error kind of process. And we say that as these trials, like as you run so many trials, each trial will be or will be able to give you better results. Went further and looked at various kind of machine learning. This is just a summary. Machine learning category: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Then we specifically looked at some of the applications. One was in terms of fraud detection. Then we had client retention. Sorry for that, I received a call. I hope it has not interfered with my audio. So we went further and looked at who uses machine learning. And we say that machine learning is mostly used by data scientists. However, we say that we have this specialist called a machine learning engineer. But I said for organizations that just employ machine learning engineers, it means that they have other people like a wide business intelligence or data science team that handle various categories within that department. Yeah, I think that is what we covered. And we want now to look at what we are supposed to cover today. In fact, we might finish today this unit. Then I sent you the card before we start the next unit next week on Monday. Now the practical ones going forward. So I want us to look at what we call artificial intelligence. And when we are talking about artificial intelligence, I picked one of the definition that was made by the co-founder of Google Brain, and who also worked as the chief data scientist at Baidu. This guy is called Andrew. He defined artificial intelligence as a huge set of tools for making computers behave intelligently. So what it means that when you are talking about that the computers are behaving intelligently, it means these computers mimic human behavior, like they can do what a human being does, and that is what artificial intelligence is. So when we are looking at this definition, it is a general definition, like it covers a wide scope, if I can say. And when we are talking about now this machine learning, I have listed some of the tools that apply artificial intelligence, such as voice assistants. We have what called Siri, recommendation systems such as Netflix, self-driving cars, drones that fly over fields and capture footages to optimize crop yield, Google search, and so on. So basically, artificial intelligence is part of what called deep learning. It is so much close to deep learning in data science. It is so close to what called deep learning. That's why when we are talking about, I think, machine learning, some part of machine learning, still we mentioned about recommendation systems and so on. But I'm going to explain more what they mean. So there's some diagram here. I don't know if it is very visible. It looks like a tree. Artificial intelligence can be categorized into various aspects. One, we have what called interactive AI. And when you are talking about interactive AI, you can have chatbots. Chatbot is just a tool that you can interact with it. In fact, ChatGPT is almost like you can create chatbots using ChatGPT and so on, because you can ask a question and you get an answer and so on. We have small personal assistants. That is what called interactive AI. Because you are able to interact with it, you are able to ask questions and you get answers. Then we have what called text AI. Text AI, you are talking about text recognition, speech to text conversions, and so on. I think Google has something called something like Google Flies, if I'm not wrong, whereby as I'm speaking currently, it is able to capture the text and generate some kind of notes that you can print and so on. That is called text AI. Then again, we have what called visual AI. Mostly you are talking about computer vision and augmented reality. And when you are talking about computer vision, mostly we are talking about like um, tools, like when you're talking about drones that fly over fields and capture footage to optimize crop yield, they are using what we call computer vision and so on. Like they are able to capture some kind of data in real time, and based on how the model was trained, it is able to give output. Then I think after that, we go to what we call analytic AI. We can talk about sentiment analysis, supply risk assessment, and so on. So when we are talking about surfing algorithms, such as those employed by Twitter and Facebook that decide what content to show you in your feed, mostly we are talking about analytical AI. And this one as well, I was talking one time, I gave you an example with regards to it was some kind of, nowadays in social media platforms, you can be able to analyze the text data to know like the kind of customers, the response on various tweets, various content that you are sharing in social media. Then another one we have about is functional AI. We are talking about IoT solutions and robots. Like IoT is Internet of Things, and robots, they do the same time. Like almost they are related. IoT and in fact, to build robots, you apply some kind of IoT solutions, knowledge, and so on. Internet of Things. An example, you can have a robot that maybe detects temperature. If the temperature exceeds maybe a certain point, it is able to adjust and so on. And also we saw, especially during COVID-19 period, some of the countries were able to come up to purchase these robots that they were trying to guide if people are out or some kind of gathering and so on, and direct them. In fact, in most of the developed countries nowadays, They even have some kind of traffic police officers in form of robots who are able to guide traffic and so on. So that is called functional AI. So when you are talking about artificial intelligence, as I said, one thing is that it borrows a lot from what you call deep learning. And deep learning is part of, you go from machine learning, then you go to deep learning, then AI. They work together. You need machine learning knowledge to be able to do deep learning and, of course, AI. And also, what has come up very clear is that AI is divided into various categories, like the visual AI, especially applied, for instance, in drones that fly overhead, and so on. Like they are trying to capture footage to optimize crop yield. We talk about text AI, the one that are used for text recognition, speech to text conversion, and so on. We have interactive AI, such as chatbots, small personal assistants. Then we have IoT, Internet of Things, is part of functional AI. Then we have analytical AI, for instance, used in sentiment analysis and supply risk assessment. And when we are talking about surfing, algorithms such as those employed by the social media giants, it is part of it. So before now we move on data governance, any question on AI? Okay, in case the question, you have a question, you can just ask later. Let us look at data governance. And before even I define what data governance is, I think I had told you that you look at various data privacy regulations in your various jurisdictions. And I just want to start from Mr. Biganiro. I think you are representing, is it Rwanda or Burundi, if I'm not wrong? Maybe you can share with us in case you, like in your country, do you have these data privacy regulations and so on? Is it something that is there, or is it something that is being worked on? And maybe just give us highlights, brief highlights with regards to data governance in your country.
Okay. Year 2021, in October, the law was out. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Let me put the headset. It's noisy here.
Okay, but it is just clear. I can't hear any background noise.
Hello?
Hello, please proceed.
Okay, so I was saying, last year there was the government has gazetted a data protection law, which is under like banks, financial institutions, telecom. They're under requirements to be certified this complying with this law. So by this year, October, all financial institutions and the telecom need to to comply with the law. It has a lot of chapter what need to be done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that already you are having these regulations
Yes.
in your country. Thank you so much for the insights. Next is Hein. Which jurisdiction are you representing?
I'm in South Africa.
Okay, thank you.
In our country, I think it's about a year or two ago, implemented the POPI Act, which stands for the Protection of Private Information Act, which says every company needs to specify on their website or whenever you're signing up or before you give personal information. The company needs to provide you with exact details on how they use and process your personal information and with whom they share it with. And if a company does not specify that, they are not allowed to share your personal information with any third party at all.
Thank you so much for the insights shared. I think it is clear that already we have the regulations there. There was someone who was representing Uganda. Is there anyone from Uganda? There's one of our colleagues, I think Belinda. Okay, she's not yet in. Maybe I want to pick, that's Wangui Kanyi. If you can share any information you have with regards to the data protection regulations in Kenya. Okay, maybe in case you're not in a position to speak Wangui, I just want to pick Felicia. Felicia, if you can hear us, are you aware of any data protection regulations in Kenya? Okay, maybe anyone from Kenya who is aware of the data protection regulations, just to give us an overview. Anyone? Any volunteer?
Hi, this is Mukaya.
Yes, Mufaya.
Yeah, so in Kenya, we have an office called the Chief Data Office in Kenya that is ideally in charge of regulating the data all the way from. So we have in Kenya we have two sets of data sources. So we have data owners. So those being people who are generating data and holding them. So hospitals, schools, financial institutions, telecommunications, and then we have also consumers of the same. Um, According to the regulations, we are currently required to register from the organization we are in. And I know for sure we are setting up a data office that is ideally meant to control the flow of information. Um, just in the same thing in IT security, there will be layers in the access of data um, uh, for customers and the people that we serve. So it will have different layers. So only information that is relevant to you uh, is required to be visible to you. And in the long run, they have set um, rules and regulations in case there's a breach of data owned by particular organizations, the penalties, the remediation processes, and things like that. So there's a whole framework and a whole department in Kenya set up for purposes of controlling the flow of information being held by different organizations and different consumers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't think if we have anyone else in this class from any other jurisdiction, but what I can say is that the issue of data privacy, we almost each and every country is trying to implement some kind of regulations to ensure that people's data is protected, and companies are allowed or given that mandate to ensure that they are complying with various bodies regulating the data privacy. Thank you all for sharing. Let us now look at the data governance topic. So basically, what is very important is that you need to be aware when you are working with data. And as a data scientist, a business analyst, a data analyst, data science, a machine learning engineer, is that you need to be very aware when working with this data, and especially when you are working with what you call personally identifiable information. And this kind of information requires some significant legal and regulatory compliance. As we know that we have these bodies already that are governing it. So we see that any potential failure could mean serious consequences such as legal lawsuits, fines, and even losing your consumer trust and so on. So what this means, in fact, I saw somewhere, was it in Kenya, whereby a certain company was fined about 5 million for, I think it was using someone's image without consent. And but the good thing about these regulations also, sometimes they give you an opportunity, like if there is any kind of data breach, because as I was reading the story, the company was given an opportunity, I think, to apologize and so on, and they never did so. And that's why now the regulator went ahead and fined them about 5 million Kenyan shillings at that time. So we see such legal costs can really affect the companies. But what I'm sure is that if companies are not going to take an initiative of training their employees with regards to data governance and privacy, I will not be surprised to see a lot of legal suits and fines, because also the consumers are becoming more and more aware of their rights. And maybe you might have those that they just want to take advantage of knowing their rights to be able to try and report such cases and so on. So companies need to be very careful and ensure that all employees are made aware of such regulations. So what we can say with regards to data governance is that when you are working at your various organizations, you need some kind of a specialist legal advice, because these companies, you have legal secretaries, and even if we don't, like the company does not have, we have experts that can be hired to train. So another thing that is clear is that businesses are successful with insights obtained from third-party data. And when you build a business with key business processes that rely on data, it is very important, and this one you should take like note of it, is that it is very, very important that you become the owner of the data. So, first of all, make sure you own the data for important business operations. Secondly, for critical decision making. And third, for monetization. As we say that data is the new oil. So you need to own this data, one, for important business operation. Secondly, for critical business operation. And third is for monetization. And I want to go to, there's a startup called Rwazi. I saw they raised a lot of capital recently. What these people do, they have come up with a platform whereby they contract university and college students to collect data. Like they can come to your organization if you give them consent, maybe ask a few information and so on, and this data is relayed in real time in their systems, and it is analyzed in real time. And after that, they sell that data to various multinationals and so on at a very, of course, high cost, even like yourself. For those people, in case we are having anyone here in the product development department, sometimes maybe you are doing some kind of market research and you don't have statistics that you need to input there. Maybe you are maybe in Kenya, and I want to do some kind of maybe market research in South Africa, and I don't have that cap. So these guys have come up with a platform that they collect data all over. They have what called enumerators. Maybe they go to a local shop, ask a few questions about the prices of commodities and so on. So this data is being relayed in real time to the servers and analyzed. So if you want to access it, you have to pay. Then you will be able to visualize reports that you need. So when we are talking about, we have seen that the reasons why you need to own the data. One is for important business operations. Two is for critical decision making, and third is for monetization. But now we have data ownership fundamental aspects. First of all, ensure that you own any data that is necessary to your business. Secondly, you must have the necessary rights and permissions to collect and use the data. Like before you collect and use the data, ensure that you have necessary rights and permissions to collect. And that's why most organizations have come up with the data privacy policies and so on. They tell you maybe by downloading our app, you agree to our terms and conditions. So it means already that's a legally binding agreement between the customer and the organization. So, but you see, sometimes customers don't even read these terms and conditions. But that is the document that mostly companies and organizations use to get the permission to collect and use the data. And when you're looking at the data privacy policy, it shows why the reason why the data is collected, in case there's any international transfer of data and so on. Okay, there's a question: do organizations own third-party data? No. Third-party data, mostly you can buy it, and therefore, if you get access to third-party data, for instance, it means, in fact, it does not belong to you. You need to take care of it and so on. And the main reason we are saying that businesses are successful with insights from third-party data, maybe you want to get data with regards to your competitors and so on. but organizations do not have ownership unless there is an agreement on how the data needs to be used. So first of all, I have said that when we have fundamental aspect of data ownership, one, own any data that is necessary to your business, then have the necessary rights and permission to collect and use that data. Third, ensure the correct rights are in place. Like ensure the correct rights are in place. Again, therefore, we can look at what we call the best practice for verifying data rights. So I talked about metadata. Metadata, I said it is data on other data, if I can say. So the best practice for verifying data rights, one, it is very important to know when and where was the data collected. Secondly, what permissions are given, because as I said that customers never read these data privacy policies that you have. So a customer might or may come and raise an issue with regards to that. The only way you can defend yourself, even in a court of law, first of all, you need to be aware on when and where was the data collected. Then what permissions were given. That's the only thing that can make you win any kind of legal suits, maybe with the customers and so on. Because for them, they never sometimes read the data privacy policy. They just opt in to a specific product without checking such issues. Then now, as we have looked that we have various regulations in our various jurisdictional countries, we do have what called the General Data Protection Regulations, what called the GDPR. This one is a new legislation by the European Union to protect personal data. And basically, what it does is that it defines standardized data protection laws. And for companies that fail to comply, a fine up to 20 million euros is applied. In fact, there's something I saw. I don't know if there's anyone again who came across. Facebook was charged a lot of money somewhere because of transfer of personal data. Who read that article very well? I saw it yesterday or on Monday. I think Facebook was charged a lot of Meta. It is called Meta. About was it 20? A lot of money in euros. I saw it somewhere because of violation of the GDPR, like the General Data Protection Regulations. Maybe it is something you can check. So I have said, as much as we have our individual regulations in our various jurisdictions or countries, we have what called the General Data Protection Regulations. And this is a legislation by the European Union to protect personal data. And it defines standardized data protection laws. And for companies failing to comply, a fine up to 20 million euros is applied here. So what we need to remember here very well is that, one, ensure that private data has to be protected. Secondly, is that private data must be used for the purpose for which it was handed over. Third, ensure that communicate to users what data you are going to collect from them and how it will be used. So it is very important to know that private data has to be protected. Private data must be used for the purpose for which it was handed over and communicate to users what data you are going to collect from them and how it will be used. So that's the most important thing about data governance, because it is a very interesting topic. I want to hear more from you guys. Let me create a scenario. You see, the first thing we know that customers never read these data privacy policies and so on. Maybe can we have some kind of contributions? What's your thinking? What can be done to improve these, to ensure that customers or users of various products and services are in a position to read these policies and so on? Because even ourselves, we just jump on and start using a product without reading. Any kind of your views with regards to that? How can we ensure that the customers start reading these policies that we provide in various organizations? Yes, Michael, you can start from your end.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Now, from my angle, I believe the data policy documents. Most of the time, when someone is scrolling online, they are always written in so many paragraphs, and with a single checkbox. So one thing that companies can do, number one, is to break those paragraphs into various parts with multiple checkbox. So like a small line, like a 2-3 lines with a single checkbox. Then the next line, another checkbox. So by the time you are on your final checkbox, at least by default, you've a rough idea of these other checkboxes that you are highlighting. What were they talking about? But just having like 20 or so paragraphs, okay, written in very small fonts with a single checkbox, most people really read it. So I suggest breaking down the information into simple language and small paragraphs with the multiple checkboxes.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. I think basically the issue here is the language, like because it's a legal document, they assume that everyone can interpret the language that is being used. So this need to simplify to ensure that customers are able to understand it in a simple language. I think those are the same thing that both Mary, Hein are talking about. Then Dennis, I see you are talking about the awareness programs by the companies. I think that is well said. And there's another thing I said. Maybe I want to hear your views. Like I say that according to my own views, I see that many organizations, before they realize, are going to suffer the consequences. That is in terms of fines and so, because what is happening is that many people are becoming aware of their data privacy rights. At the same time, yes, organizations are trying to comply, but I think there might be some kind of breaches and so on. What's your view with regards to that? Do you look like, are we looking at a future whereby maybe many organizations are going to be fined before they become more aware of how to protect personal data. What is your view, guys, with regards to this team? Your opinions, independent opinions. Mike, Michael, I see your hand is still up. Do you still want to contribute to that? Like, do you see a scenario whereby like some organizations are going to suffer like the consequences of these regulations before they become fully compliant? Yes, Hein?
I actually think we're already seeing that effect. As you mentioned, Meta was fined recently for not adhering to regulations there, and I think when the smaller company sees these things happening, they usually follow suit. So I think this will most likely send a signal to the other companies out there to also start tightening up their data. Because if a big company like Meta can be fined that amount of money, they know they'll be more likely to fail those tests. So I think having these big organizations being investigated like this and being fined like this is going to force the whole industry to follow them and start doing better with their data.
Okay, thank you so much, Hein, for your contribution. I think that is well put. Any other person, maybe with a contrary opinion or additional contribution? Okay, maybe the last thing that I want to mention with regards to data governance and protection, when developing these data privacy policies, what is your opinion, given that, yes, you might be you might put a lot of security measures in your organization and so on? Does it mean that with regards to the security measures that you put in your organization in terms of protecting this data and especially personal data, is it necessary to include a clause in your data privacy policy saying that, yes, we have the interventions to secure your data, but they are not 100%? Do you think if you put that clause in the data regulation, so yeah, organizations' data privacy policy, can it discourage customers? Like you tell customers, yes, we are protecting your personal data, but these interventions are not 100% secure. What is your opinion with regards to that? Is that something that can put someone off? Or like, is it a win-win to the customer and the organization, or it is organization? Yes. Again, hey.
I think with that, we'll definitely need to segment the data because, for instance, in South Africa, this is almost like sad truth that your information won't be protected. I mean, here, most companies don't really even know what cybersecurity is and how to protect data. And I think in a lot of countries, third world countries and underdeveloped countries, they don't know how to do this. And it's almost a norm to know, like, these companies can't protect your data. Even if they want to, it's not going to happen. So, for instance, in my country, if a company would say we have measures to protect your data, it's not 100%. No one will, it won't discourage anyone. But the expectation here is honestly that your data is most likely going to be leaked because our country isn't known for our cyber security, per se.
Okay, thank you so much, Hein, for your contribution. So what has come out is that yes, that surety is good, but we have sometimes some kind of loopholes that can happen that can lead to some kind of data breach. Anyone else maybe with any opinion, any contribution? Okay, in case we don't have any contribution, maybe just a high level summary is that what is most important here, like as you're even going to progress further with your role, is that it is very important to be aware of the data governance, regulations, and also yourself under your capacity. You have to ensure that you protect people's data, and organizations need to develop these data privacy policies, and also to ensure employee integrity with regards to this, because yes, you might have policies and so on, security features like your laptop, computers, they put a lot of security features that you cannot maybe even send a document outside the company and so on. But you see, in the long run, it is the employee integrity also that is very important, because someone can read information that you can easily memorize and share somewhere. So again, I think according to me, the bottom line ends up with the integrity of the employee in that company, because you can put all securities and whatever, but I think the bottom line ends up with the employee. But also, it is very necessary that this is something that has taken effect. Organizations are already being fined. So it is just good to comply, to ensure that always when you want to share any kind of data, there is consent. Like, you just have to ensure that there is consent before you share any kind of data. But also, when we are looking at data pre-processing, I think we looked at data marking, if I'm not wrong, that ensures that such kind of identifiable personal information is protected at all cost. So it is a very important part of it. And I think also what we have learned is that we have said that you need to ensure you own data in your organization. First of all, for business operations, we have talked about critical decision making and monetization. And then we have some fundamental aspects in regards to this, like own data that is necessary to your business, have the necessary rights and permissions to collect and use the data, and also you ensure the correct rights are in place with regards to data. And also, we have highlighted that when you're collecting this data, ensure that you have what we call metadata. You must be aware if a customer asks you any, for instance, question, like if you ask RFCDS, how did you end up with my details? They must be know when and where was it collected, maybe during your admission, this date, and so on. So you must be aware. Also, the General Data Protection Regulations and various jurisdiction regulations. Even if you are not from the legal department, it is very important. And the last thing is that you have always to remember that any private data has to be protected, and private data must be used for the purpose for which it was handed over, And also it is good to communicate to users what data you are going to collect from them and how this data will be used. So I think that is just a summary. We can proceed to our 15 minutes break. Then we come back and look now at various programming languages. Unless if we have any question. Yes, Jesse. Yes. Jesse Mbaria, your hand is up.
Oh, sorry. My question is about this company called the Meta. They were fined around a record of 1.2 billion euros for transferring AU user data to the US. My question is, who comes with this decision of fining? Is it the General Data Regulatory, or is it an international body that comes up with this fine?
Oh, okay,
And
thank
can
you.
they appeal? Can they appeal this decision?
Okay, thank you. So with regards to Meta, for instance, I saw for them they are being under the EU regulations based on whatever I was able to read, though I did not go into deeper information with regards to that. So what happens is that for them they were fined under the EU regulations, and of course they have specific kind of clauses on the nature of fines and so on. So I can say it depends with the regulations, like if it is within a certain country, it can be a different regulation. Maybe the jurisdiction might be within that country. But for Meta, I saw it was under the EU, the General Data Protection Regulations. That's the GDPR. So those are already some kind of, I can say, whatever is already in the regulations. But in terms of appeal, yes, they can appeal because it is some of a legal process. They will always be allowed to appeal. Maybe they can pray so that the amount fined can be reduced or whatever. I hope that is fine, Jesse. Okay. Yes, Hein.
I just a question. I don't know if this is the right platform for it, but as you mentioned, it's about jurisdiction, and the EU has issued a fine to Facebook. But if you look at say for instance, a small company in South Africa that does business with different countries, do they then only fall under South Africans' data protection laws, or are they under international jurisdiction? And then also, if you have a multinational company, do each branch only answer to their relative countries' laws, or do they have to adhere to all the countries in which they operate data protection policies?
Okay, thank you. I think if I got your point well, is that yes, these guys might be protected by the. I don't know if I got it well, but like these guys, like for instance, if it is a multinational, maybe operating in South Africa, and maybe let us say Meta is a US based company, they must also abide by the regulations, that's the local jurisdiction, and the international law or regulation. Is that what you meant, Hein?
Yes, that was.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So let us just go for a break so that we can come. That's 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, we look at the programming languages. Please let us confirm if you are back. So we want to look at some of the tools that are available for various data science, data analytics, and business intelligence. So first of all, maybe just to give an introduction, a brief one, is that knowing these programming languages enables the data scientist to devise programs that can assist you to just execute some of the operations. And the advantage of these languages is that they have that flexibility. Like, like you are not restricted to do whatever you want. So we have one of the languages. This is R. This is what we are going to cover next. Then we have Python. Then we have MATLAB. So these are Python, MATLAB, combined with what you call structured query language. SQL stands for structured query language. These ones most cover the tools that are used when working with traditional data, business intelligence, and of course, conventional data science. But when we look now at the most common, when you're talking about Python and R, are the two most common popular tools across all data science subdisciplines. In fact, currently it is Python as compared to R when it comes to data science. But when you want to do more on research, I think you can go for R. However, R also has a data science library. We will look into it, or a package within it that is used for data science. So the biggest advantage of Python and R is that they can manipulate data and it can be integrated with multiple data and data science platforms. Like, it means, as we say, that when you want to implement a new technology, you have also to look at the existing infrastructure, like in your organization. Is it something that is going to cost the organization in terms of infrastructure or not? So, meaning that these two tools are more adaptable to most of the infrastructure that already we have in various organizations. Then SQL Mostly, as I said, it is used for data engineering, and it works mostly when we are working with relational database management systems because it was specifically created for that purpose. And this one, as we said, is that mostly it is very important when working with traditional historical data, especially those people who are doing the business, what I can say as business intelligence analysis. That one is very, very important. So SQL, I think in terms of the most common, SQL is one of the most common kind when you are dealing with structured data. But also in one of our classes, I think it was there was someone who asked about. I explained the issue of nowadays data warehouses and data lakes, especially when you are dealing with big data and so on. So you can't again talk about SQL and so on. When you are dealing with data, big data, I mentioned something on data lakes and data warehouses, whereby I said a data lake is like a large pool of raw data for which no use has yet been determined. And I talked also about data warehouse that time. And we say that data warehouse, it has structured, like both structured and some kind of unstructured data and so on. But SQL, structured query language, we are talking about mostly traditional data. There's another tool called MATLAB. This also is a very important tool for data science, mostly when you are working with mathematical functions or matrix manipulations. But you will see in Python, Python has a tool called pandas. You will learn pandas that are used for mathematical operations. Then other softwares you can see here, we still have most of them, like Excel. In fact, you cannot be a data scientist or a data analyst if you don't know how to use Excel properly. So Excel is one of the tools applicable to more than one category of traditional data. That's data. We are talking about business intelligence and data science. Remember, we say that yes, a lot of data generated nowadays is structured, is unstructured rather, but organizations still consume a lot of structured data that can easily be analyzed using Excel. Then we have another one called SPSS. This is the statistical package for social sciences. This one mostly when you are talking about traditional data and applying statistical analysis, especially when we are talking about research that involves some kind of surveys and so on, SPSS comes in handy there. Or what you call the traditional data scientists, as I was talking about the statisticians, SPSS plays a lot of role there. Then there was this tool that was developed by Google, especially when you reach machine learning. It is called TensorFlow. This is just a framework that is designed for working with big data and designing machine learning algorithms. So this tool called TensorFlow, it was developed by Google for internal use, and it became public in 2015. And this one, when you want to deploy neural networks mostly are used in deep learning and artificial intelligence, whereby models, you try to come up with models that mimic human behavior. That one comes in handy there. So you will learn them like practically. Big data unit, I think, is the second last unit. Other that you'll come across in big data, mostly you'll come across a tool called Apache Hadoop and Spark. These are softwares mostly designed for handling big data. When you are talking about Apache, HBase, Hadoop, and so on, they are mostly used for big data. Then when you are talking about Power BI, SAS, QLIC, and Tableau, these ones are mostly used in business intelligence visualizations. And we talked about business intelligence. I say that business intelligence is the analysis of historical data. You are trying to answer what happened. That one, Power BI, Tableau comes in handy. Then also we have another tool mostly used in predictive analytics called eViews. This one mostly is used when you want to work with what you call econometric time series models. And at one time I showed you like a time series kind of visualization when we are looking at I think traditional data science, whereby maybe you are trying to forecast sales or to forecast share prices or stock prices and so on. I think in terms of tools, these are just the general tools that you need also to know. But the main tool used and mostly the curriculum is built on Python. Then you have some bit of R. SQL, you need to know it because of data engineering. As I said, not all organizations have data engineers. You might end up being given a role that it involves also querying data yourself. Then you learn Excel also, especially when you will be handling the statistics unit. You will learn Tableau. You will learn Hadoop in big data. The big data unit, I think, is the second last unit. You will handle some big data. But you see one thing about big data, first of all, you must handle the SQL unit before you go to big data because it is related. It is so much related. The queries you make in SQL for data science and big data. So this is the end of this unit. I think now you have a general overview of what data science is, machine learning, business analytics, data analytics, and so on. That knowledge is very important for you. And also we have talked about data governance. I think now that knowledge is very important for you going forward on the practical classes. At least you know the theory part of whatever you are doing. So maybe before I give you an opportunity to ask questions, tomorrow I'll share that is I'll share a card, the same structure for the data science for the foundational IBEC exam, how it looks like. It is normally a multiple choice, the foundational exam. Then the project exam is a scenario based. I think I showed you that during the first session, but I'll share in the course of tomorrow, and I give you up to at least by the end of Sunday evening, because it will be a multiple choice. Just attempt and see what you can score. And one thing is that based on my statistics, mostly you find out that what a student scores in a CAT is almost the same pass mark they get in IABEC exams. So just try and measure your level of understanding without Googling, so that we know, how we can assist you. Another thing is that the next unit we will be looking at are essentials. I'm the one who is taking you through. I'll share a video of how to install, but also I like to know the kind of operating systems that you are using. Like if you are having those people using Mac operating system, those using which one again, Linux and Windows, so that I know, because the procedure is not the same. Yeah, I think that is the end from my end. Let us have now questions. Any questions? And in terms of timelines for the CAT, is it okay by Sunday? Or do you need more time? Let us be open. If you need more time, I can give you. We can still start the early unit on Monday, while still you have more time. Maybe if you want to revise fast before you do the CAT, I can give you more time. There's no hurry. Yes, Vincent?
Just need more time.
Okay, it is fine. So, what can happen? Just revise it. I can share the CAT on Monday. Monday will be just revise tomorrow. We won't be having a class tomorrow, and over the weekend, then I give you I share the CAT on Monday, which will be 29th, and I give you up to Sunday, which will be 4th of June, to complete it. Like I give you that time frame. Whoever can do it earlier. Yeah, the CAT will follow the IBEC exam format. And the data science, the foundation unit is always like scenario based, a theory but scenario based kind of questions. The practicals we will start on Monday. They are essential, and I'll share the video as well. So we have agreed with regards to CAT. I give you more time so that you can revise, and I'm going to share with you more materials. The materials with regards to the introductory unit. Remember, I shared only this PDF. So I'm going to share, there's a booklet, I'm having it somewhere, that can give you more and more examples and scenarios in terms of theory. Any other question before we call it a day? Yes, Michael.
I'm just wish to get some more, shed some more light on the nature of the CAT. Previously, the MCQs that I've done online, they're always timed. And now they're done on various platforms. So I've not looked at the IBAC exam format. So I don't know how the exam formats are. So is there a possibility of sharing maybe a previous link to a previous IBAC exams, that at least we have a rough idea of what to expect in terms of the platform in which we'll do the MCQs? And is it timed? Is it when you open the platform? Is it timed, or you can answer the questions at your own time and your own convenience?
Okay, thank you so much. So basically, we have two exams. Yeah, I'm sorry, Michael. I know you joined us a bit late. For the foundation exam, it's a multiple choice. It is timed. It is 1 hour. So my CAT will follow the same, But let me take
Okay.
this opportunity to share the practical exam, how it looks like.